I've always hated that quote, to be cringe is to be free, because I think it sort of discounts the genuine cost to that, right? Especially when you're younger. I mean, let's be real, social dynamics exist at every age, but especially when you're younger, there's a very real cost to being a cringe person, right? And if it's easier said than done to be cringe and free if that comes with being a social outcast, right? There's also a lot of questions implicit in that, I think. A lot of questions that often get discounted. For an example, I would ask the question, what is more free? To be alone in yourself or to be with a lot of other people and, have to monitor certain aspects of your personality? I think there's a too often discounted weight to being lonely or to being an outcast, right? And I'm not saying this to present an idea to you that like, oh, you should not be yourself. That's not what I'm trying to do at all. But I think it's a worthwhile question to ask. I'm not pitching an answer to you. For many of you, the answer might be, yeah, it is worth it to be a social outcast as long as I'm myself, right? And that's great. I have a great deal of respect for that. But I think I think oftentimes in the conversation we just discount the weight of that kind of thing, right? So for that reason, I've never really liked the quote. I do think, though, like most things, I'm gonna of course fence it a little bit, because as much as I dislike it, I do think there's a lot of ways in which it's real. I think that once you get out of a situation where you are forced to be with people, right? Like, specifically talking about high school and college, because that's where that sort of thing happens quite a bit, right? You're sort of forced to be around people then, and as you get out of those phases of your life, you get to choose who you're going to be around. And with that, I think comes a renewed appreciation for this quote, right? Because whereas it is not the most applicable thing when you have to see people all the time, which is like a unique circumstance to be in. Like, I know I never thought about that when I was a kid, when I was in high school, being like, oh wait, it's kind of like it's not how the rest of my life is going to be, that I'm going to have to see people I don't like every day, and like you gotta play a lot of politics, not school. It sounds goofy to say, but like, you do to like, to fit in and all those, and to not like, it's a very political place. I don't know. Does anybody else get that? Like, where it's you got to do a lot of like monitoring and who's, all these things, right? But as you get out of that, I do have a renewed appreciation for it, right? Because I think that there's a level in which being yourself is the coolest thing, right? And that's something that's not appreciated then, but like, I think there's a good question to ask, right? A question that I've talked about much on the show of like, what does it mean to be, what is cool? What does it mean to be cool, right? And it seems like a dumb question, like, what are you, 13, being like, how do we be cool? But it's a real question, because so much of, especially in the age where it's all about social media and followers, like, we discount just how much it matters to be considered culturally on top of things or cool, and like, this is something that you learn like a really false version of, I think, when you're in your early life. Like, I think that they talk a lot about like, oh my god, high school doesn't teach you how to do taxes, which I hate that conversation. Like, dude, you wouldn't pay attention if they were teaching you how to do taxes. Come on. Like, that's not, like there's a whole conversation about how your adolescence doesn't really aptly prepare you for the real world. One of the ways I think that is that it doesn't actually teach you how like a social setting is going to work past the age of 13, which is funny to say, but it's very true that you're delivered a very bastardized version of these things. And understanding that like when you're out in the real world, the thing that will make you seem the coolest is just being natural, being yourself. I guess in that regard, to try and sit with the question that I asked earlier in this episode of like, is it worth it to be yourself and alone? I guess you could answer with the idea of yes, if from the lens of like preparing yourself for the real world, you know, to training of being yourself, no matter what people think, is a very valid, I mean, that's a skill right there, right? That is a skill to be developed, is to be able to aptly be yourself in situations where people are totally going to judge you for it and be like, this guy sucks. But back to the main point here of asking, like, what is it to be cool? What is it, like, who decides what cool is? How does cool move? You know, like, all these things, right? And within culture, I mean, it's a whole other question, too. Especially, I'm going to use clothes because it's such a, like, obvious visual example of this. Like, if you look at clothes and what clothes are considered, like, trendy and stuff, I mean, all the stuff that's considered trendy now would have been considered, like, really dumb and weird years ago. So, like, I think it's worth asking that question. And so often, I mean, you know, these things are so subjective and you know, always changing to the point where I'm not going to pretend I can give you like oh, this is the guide to be cool, right? That's not how that works. I mean, maybe some record label or something has like a manual that's actually the answer, but I know I don't, right? And I think the only pattern I can find, the only like observation I can genuinely make, is that the people that end up being called cool are the people who are going to be themselves, so much that it makes other people feel comfortable to be themselves, right? I think like in my own life, right, getting away from culture for a second, all the people who like I can introduce to anyone and they go, oh my god, that's a cool person, it's been that way because that person is so themselves that everyone else becomes comfortable around them. Like, oh, like I'm in a zone where I can also be safe, where I can also be myself. I know for me, like, you know, a couple of years ago, for the first time, I really asked myself the question of like, who do I want to be in my like social life? Like, you know, like who do I want to be when somebody goes like, oh yeah, I know that guy. What do I want people to say? And I kept coming back to like, I want people to be like I feel comfortable around him just being who I am. Like that, I feel like that's the highest compliment you can get as a person. And along with that, I sort of thought about like, okay, the people who, back to culture here, who have been considered to be cool people are those who maybe weren't accepted at first, you know, and then through some happenstance, people were like, wait, that's really cool. And since they stuck so hard to their gun, so hard to their vision of what cool was, people came around and went like, oh, this person's cool. But it all starts with being yourself, right? It all starts with just like being 100% you. Not being cringe, not being cool, just being you, right? And I think it's similar, and I feel like it's maybe a little degrading to talk about personalities as if they're objects here, but it's very similar to what we were discussing the other day about art, right? We were discussing art and how subjective it often is, right? Like, you've made a masterpiece, but maybe it's not going to be considered a masterpiece till 100 years from now. Like, that theoretical observation, like, everything is cool when it's considered cool. So, I think, like, along with that, I would say, when it comes to being yourself, like, you are the coolest person on earth. Maybe people haven't noticed it yet, maybe they never will, but like, there's no objectivity to that, right? The only objectivity is what people are considering at that moment in time to be cool, which I mean that's so like ephemeral, right? That lasts for seconds. That's like an instant, and it's over. Like, yeah, you can like you can compare me and like my assets of how I dress, who I am, to like the archetype right next to it, like this is what is considered cool, like culturally right now. And like you can objectively be like, okay, that one doesn't match up, that matches up, and come to a conclusion, right? But when that rubric changes every day, does it matter, right? And that's what so much of life is it's this rubric of what is considered good, what's considered bad, and just watching that change 24/7. So because of that, I would ask the question of like, why not just be you, right? And I'm you know, the reason I started this with talking about like understanding that there are moments in your life where that's not convenient, or I mean, you know, if you're of the opinion that it's not the right thing to do, it can genuinely just not be the right thing to do, to be yourself, right? I totally respect. I mean, I would say I probably did something similar myself, of like laying low for a couple of years and just like keeping your interests that people might think are nerdy on, and just not mentioning them because it's not worth the pain of like having people be like, oh, you're a nerd, you know, like that kind of thing. I get that, right? But I think that coming to a point of understanding eventually is not so much of being like, oh, it's freeing to be cringe, I think it's a better and a more apt understanding to say that it's just cool to be you. Like, it's genuinely the coolest thing on earth to be yourself. And when you come to that understanding, I mean, it gets so much easier to be you, right? Yeah, people won't always be like, this guy's awesome. Like, people are gonna hate you. And that's the thing. I think the other thing, being realistic here about being yourself fully, is an understanding that, like, yeah, now more people are passionately going to hate you as a person. Not hate you like in terms of like, oh, they're your enemy, but just not vibe with you when you're being yourself, because you're being 100%, right? And that's always gonna be a more divisive thing than being like, oh my god, like I'm gonna be like the guy that's cool with everyone. Like, it's always more divisive to 100% be you. But you know, the people that do like you then are gonna like you way more genuinely than if it was a mask that they liked. So that's why I think that if I were to kind of put a pin in this, the best advice ever is just to be yourself, like, genuinely. I made a video about this a while ago, but I don't know, I think I didn't give enough credence to, like, a lot of the reality of, like, being a social person in that video. So I want to kind of visit this topic. This is the painting. I want it to, this is crazy because, like, I've gone from being, like, I want to learn form to, like, let's do something that looks like a 5-year-old did it. But I did. I literally did just want, so this is going to be kind of a tangent. The topic's over if you guys want to click off now if you don't care about these paintings. But I was watching Begonia the other day, 2 days ago, and in the beginning, no spoilers of course, but in the beginning, there's like some beautiful scenes of these bees going over flowers and like, just like nature documentary type stuff, and I was like, man, like, we don't talk about enough how some of the coolest stuff is just like, very bright, nature-y stuff, and I was like, I kind of miss when I was a kid, as all I did was just like, I'm gonna paint something, let's paint a sunset, let's paint something like that, right? So I was like, I kind of want to return to that a little bit, do something fun like that, do something that doesn't have any skill to it, just laying paint down until I see what I want, the vibe I want to see. And I did do the clouds in a new way, I think that looks pretty cool. And yeah, honestly, listen, this is a terrible painting. I mean, this literally looks like a 5-year-old did it, but it speaks to me so much more than probably anything I've ever done on this series. So, like, this is like way nicer looking to me. But that's just, I mean, I guess this is more about my terrible taste in paintings than any sort of actual message. So go check this out on TikTok and Instagram. I just realized I'm gonna have to record a TikTok where I turn this around with no context at all, and it's going to look like I'm just a 5-year-old. So go check it out and make fun of me over there. Until next time, guys, gals, and pals, my name is Max Dice. This has been Paint Talk episode 311. I'm here every morning, painting and talking with you all.